Hello, welcome back to the continuation of our CSS class. So in our last class, we did brief introduction to CSS, what it stands for and what it is used for on our web page. Also explain how the various types and how it can be used. And in that our class, we talked about inline styling, we talked about internal CSS and then external CSS. And I explained to you that in this our new class, in this our next class rather, we'll be using strictly external CSS, right? So that means we'll be writing our CSS in a separate file and we will go ahead to import it in our HTML. Excuse me. So that is exactly what we are going to be doing, right? So I'm going to come to this our HTML and call the CSS file there, and I told you that to call your CSS file in the HTML, you use the link tag, and the link tag carries the href which shows the location to which the CSS file is located. In our case, it's located at the root folder of the project. So I'll simply call the name styles.css without referencing it to inside any folder. So the rel, I'm going to call it style sheet because we are working with cascading style sheet, and then I'll go ahead and close our our CSS call here. So that means we have successfully included the style sheet that we'll be writing in this place. Whatever code we'll be writing here will automatically be executed just within our HTML page and rendered in the browser when we refresh our browser. So what we are going to be doing is we are going to be picking properties of CSS one by one and be treating them till we get to the at least we will understand as many as possible before we begin to build real life projects. So the first one I want to talk about is the border. So the border property in CSS is very simple. It gives us an outline to let's say an element in our HTML file or in our HTML page. So for instance, let's say I have a div tag. So we have a div tag here, right? And then inside here I want us to just write something, hello world for example, or I'll just put it inside paragraph first of all. So paragraph hello world, like this. So if you come back here, you see our hello world is okay. I'll basically write our hello world is displayed here as you can see. So I'm not doing any serious stuff, that is why I'm previewing it within VS Code here. So there is an extension that you can use to be previewing your your the output of your HTML code here. You can just click on this extension tab here, then type HTML preview, then I install this one from Georgie Oliveira. So once you install it, you just press Ctrl Shift plus V on your HTML file, like as I am here now, assuming I have closed that, and then I come here. If I press Ctrl Shift plus V, it will open the preview for me immediately. I want it appeared here so that we can know what we are working with and what we are not working with. Yeah, so let's go ahead. So this div now, it's a block level tag in HTML. What does block level tag means? So what it means is that if I open div and I open another div, if I come back here, they will appear on separate line. So we have a block level tag and inline level tag in HTML. So for example, if I open span and I say hello world, let's say hello world like this, and then I duplicate this span. Work very well. We will have hello world wrap in this div. We'll have another hello world in a separate line because it's a block level. It means that when the browser executes it, it will not appear on the same line, right? So you see that this span hello world and this other span is an inline level type of tag in HTML. So they will appear on the same line. That is why you saw hello world here. So that is what block level means. Block level means this code will execute on a single line, this will execute on a single line, but inline means they will be joined together. It's as if I just wrote this together. Even if I come and space it with 100 lines, if I come back to preview, it will still be on the same line because the span tag is not a block level type of tag in HTML. So I'll go ahead and delete this. I'll go ahead and delete it. That is not what we are talking about majorly. So we are talking about border. The border property in HTML is an interesting topic actually. So excuse me. Yeah, so now what is a border? You know that when you have a text and you have something around it, that is what makes it a you have like a demarcation that specify that this area belongs to this particular div. That is what like a border is. So the border property in CSS allow you to specify the style with color of an element's border. So you already know what border is. So if I'm talking about this container that we see here, you see that this is like a border for it, and if you come to the end here, this is like a border for it at this other side too. So now the border property, I will go ahead and show you how you can make use of it. So the first property of the border, I will call this, I'll call a class and call it first so that we'll write our, or let me just call it border since it is border we are practicing. So if I come back to our style here and I call border, then one property from the border is border style. Now we have several values for border style in HTML. One is solid. Solid means it will draw a solid line around it. It's like we need to go back and use the browser because this is not allowing us to display the properties of this border. So let me go, we need to use the browser. Okay, so we need to use the browser. We need to use the browser and execute it to see so that we know where the problem is. So just a moment, I'm opening my HTML file in the browser. So you can see it added a border for us. So this our HTML preview here is not giving us the right output. You can even see some content has been disabled in this document, so we'll just go ahead and leave this. So we'll go ahead and leave that. happening? Okay, yeah, so our setup is working already. So the CSS property for border says we have border style and it can be solid. If you come back to our browser, you see it's appearing as solid there, right? You can see it, hello world, wrapped with a with the border. So now we have other values for border style in CSS. We have dotted. So if you come back, we have the dotted instead of border style solid, which is a solid border style in CSS. You can have dotted. When you refresh this and go back to the browser, right, you go back to the browser and refresh, so it will appear dotted for you. You can use it. So basically I'm just going to explain through the major CSS properties before we begin to use them, so don't get bored. Once you master how to use this, you can start building whatever designs you want on CSS. So we have another property called the dashed. So the dash is written as dashed, as you can see it dashed. So if you come back to our browser and you refresh, let's go back to the browser and refresh, you see it's appearing dashed instead. So these are the three values that we have for the border style. We have the dotted, the dash, and then we have the solid, right? So and remember, if you look at this browser very well, right, we have the top border, the right border, and the left border, and the bottom border. So if you want to specify that this border should affect only the top, you come and put, you come and specify border bottom style. How is bottom spelled? Style, like this. So if you come back, let me go back. I think I was not on the screen. So look at what I've written here. I said border bottom style dash. So that means it will only affect the border of the bottom border of the container itself. So that is exactly what we wanted. So if I want the bottom to be affected and the top to be affected, and I don't want the right to be affected, so I can just come do border top style. So we can just do solid if you want. Remember, you write the property, you add a full colon, then you put the value, you add semicolon to close this particular line of code telling it that this property has been completed. You go to the next line, write this, put your full colon, then the value. So now, okay, so I wasn't on it. So this is what I was explaining. Border bottom style, right? You write the property, you followed by full colon, then the property value that you want. So now I just added border bottom style solid to it. So the expectation is that if we go back to our browser and refresh, right, you should see that it has added a border to it. So if you go back to the code and add border right, or left style. We can do, let's do dotted for that, so that you see how that works. So if we go back to the browser and refresh it, you will see that it added the dotted for us at the left, it added a solid at the top, it added the dash at the bottom for us, and then it added nothing for us at the right. That is exactly how the border style works, right? I believe that is already understood. So now, if you want all the borders to be affected, all you just need to do is, instead of doing this 111, you can just come and type border solid, border style solid. All the other sides will be affected with the solid. There will be no part that will be exempted from this command, because we did not specify what area, whether top, bottom, left or right, that should be that this solid should apply to. So now that is it for this is what I just explained. So we just added a border style that covers everything without specifying whether it should be for top, left or right. So we have other properties. It's not just dotted, dash, like I say. We have like groove and a few others that you can actually use. So if you want to specify the color, right? If you want to specify the color of your border, you do border color. Okay, I didn't finish end this with semicolon. So now we can come and call whatever color we want. Let's say red. If I end up with semicolon, come back to our browser and refresh, you will see that the entire color of the border changed, and the border is solid because that was exactly what we specified on our code that it should be. So also, if you want to specify each of the sides to have different colors, you can go ahead and supply it to it. For example, you can do border, instead of doing the whole border, you can just do border bottom color like this and put blue. So even though the entire border color is red, this will automatically change the bottom color to blue. So watch this. If I go back to my browser and refresh it, you will see that the border color will automatically change to blue for us. I think I need to rush this. So there are other properties that you can use within the border, which is the border width, which it can be it can be 2 pixel. By default, the border pixel is one. The border width is 1 pixel, but you can make it 2 pixel. You can make it 3 pixel. So this is a unit of measurement. We will talk about that later. A pixel is a unit of measurement, just as we have centimeter, meters, and percentage. So that is it. So now if I go back to my browser and refresh, you will see that the border will become what did you use? Okay, we use border width of 2 pixels, so let's use something like 4 and see whether it will increase it for us. You can see it became bolder, so that means 2 was actually smaller. The pixel 2 was smaller than the default. Alright, that's good. So now remember, we have not been editing our HTML. It's just the CSS we have been on I'm trying to see how we can work with the border property in CSS. So basically we have not touched the HTML part, just the CSS that we have been trying to see how we can manipulate and all of that. So let's go back to the code. Let's go back to the code. So now to in order to avoid all this stress, there is a shorthand or a shortcut of doing this, right? So instead of writing border style border, you can just come here and say border and put the size as the first property. So the first property is size, then the border style is the next, then color. So this is how you specify the shorthand for border. So this is just an example. It's not something that will work. So let me do something that will work for us. So if we have border 5 pixel, for example, solid green, right? So if we come back to our browser and refresh, you will see that this will change to green. So you don't need to come and start typing all this long thing. You can just specify that so thing should be like this, should be like that, using this shorthand, and you're already good. So this is a shorthand way of doing this this border property in CSS. So let's move. So there's another property to make this our border rounded. To make this our border round, instead of being the way it is like this, instead of being is it square, so you can simply come here and put a new border property called border radius, right? Then you pass the way you want it to curve, right? You want it to curve, you can just pass it there. Okay, sorry, I was not on the code. So this is what I just wrote. So after the shorthand for border that gave us the green color, I added a new property called border radius and added 10 pixels to it. So if I come back to our browser here and refresh it, you see that the edges of this container will automatically curve for us. So now I want to talk about other stuff now. So now that we are done with this border, if I want to increase the height of this container now, all I just need to do is to put height equal to, let's say, 100 pixel, right? Let me show you what I've just written on the code. I added the height property, which if we come back to the browser here and refresh it added the height for us. I will add it more to, let's say, I'll make it 200 instead, so that it will become bigger. So we will return back to our browser and refresh it, and you see that it has appeared bigger. So if I want to reduce, by default block level tags in CSS, we assume 100% width of the screen, right? When you don't specify the width, but we can specify that the width of this container should be 200 pixel. Remember, this is what I'm calling the container, the div tag here. I'm calling it a container because it contains something for us here. So we are using to wrap many content, so I can even wrap more than one inside, as you can see. So if I come here and refresh, was I on the code? So I just duplicated the text we have inside the container. This is what I'm calling the container, the div tag here that wraps our headings here. I'm calling it the container. So if you come back here, I added height that increased the height. Actually, and then I'm adding width now, right? So if I refresh this, you can see that the height have changed and the width has also reduced from 100% to at least to 20 to is it 200 pixel, as you see here. So if I want it to take half of the screen, I can just do 50%, because this screen is 100%. So if you divide it by 2, it gives you 50. So if I use the percentage now, it can actually reduce it back to this place. Why here is around 20% or so. But we use pixel, and the pixel is giving us the 200 pixel is what is giving us that width that you saw there actually. Yeah, so that is what height and width does. Each time you want to specify the height and width of your container, you can just go ahead and use it the way you want it, like this. So, and then you come back to your browser, refresh it, it will appear the way you want. So now let me explain something for this border radius also. So just as we have shortcut for imputing the border to the way we want, if I want to make this border appear differently, I can simply just add shorthand properties for it. It will automatically help us to define each edges as it is supposed to be in terms of the radius. So instead of writing 10 pixel that will affect the all the four sides of the container, I will say 10 pixel, 10 pixel, 10 pixel, 10 pixel. How many? In four places. So the first pixel represent the top, the second pixel represent the right hand side, then the third pixel represent bottom, and then the uh, the fourth pixel represent right. So this is what it means, right? If I change this to 20 pixel, and then come back to my browser, I've saved it already, and will refresh it. Can you see that this edge is starting the calculation from top right? The second calculation will go to no top left. The second calculation will go to top right, then bottom right, and then bottom left. That is how the radius works. So um, so if I want to change the radius of this other side, I'll simply just go to the third value of the shorthand and increase it there. So let me show you. I'll go back to the code now and adjust it. So we have the top left, top right, bottom right, then bottom left. So if I change this bottom right to 20 pixel, come back to my browser and refresh, you will see that it will be it will take effect as you are seeing it here. So you can use border radius to do many to draw many shapes. For example, if I want this thing to be a circle, all I just need to do here, since the height and the width is the same, I'll just come and put 50% here. Let me show you what I'm saying. So since the height of our container and the width of the container is the same, all I just need to do is to come and put 50% here, and it will convert it to a circle for us. So we'll watch it. So can you see it? Even though the contents are now being overflown. So if I come back to our HTML file here and remove it, remove these contents or comment them out, you will see that let's go back to our browser. You will see that it is a perfect circle. So anytime that you are browsing a website, then you see a profile picture with a circle like this, that is how it was drawn. They gave the height and width to be the same value, then they added border radius of 50%, so it ended up generating a circle for you like this. So in your later or in the future, right, in the future, you probably get to use circles to render profile pictures and all of that. So that is how that one works. So if I want, I can just add a picture to it at the background. We'll talk about that when we get to working with backgrounds. So that is it for that. That is it. That is it. So let's move on. So you already understand borders, everything about borders, changing borders, manipulating borders. So we'll go to margin. So what are margins? A margin is just like a distance between a margin is like a distance between my content and another content outside of it. So let me come and duplicate this our border here. Okay, so now let's look at what I did. I came to the code here and duplicated this border here. So I'm just going to remove everything outside of it so that you will not get confused. Remember, the idea behind using class is so that you can be able to reuse it. You don't have to come and start writing your inline css uh, inside this, either internal or external. Is important because you don't need to come and start writing your style, adjusting the internal the inline css within this tag for each and every one. We declared it once here and we are able to use it twice here already. So now let's go back to our browser. If you come back to our browser here and refresh, you see that this container now are appearing twice, right? But now it is the margin that will separate, that will give the gap between the the two containers. So how do you write it? Just as we have the border property, also the margin property is written margin top like this. You can put the size. Okay, let me show you. It's written like this, margin top. So now this is what it means. If I come back to the browser here, I'll show you. So that means it will shift a little bit, it will give a gap at the top for each of these container because we are using the class twice. So if I refresh here, you can see it gave the back at the it gave the space at the top and also gave the space for this one at the top because the class was also called here. So it drew a line, gave us a margin between this container and this container and then the wall of this browser. So that is how margin works. So now you also have have margin right. So let's say I want 100%, 100 pixel rather. I'll just call this margin right. If I want margin left too, I can just add it like this. So if I this is what I'm saying. Look at my code here. We have margin top here, then we have margin right, we now have margin left here. I'm using 100 pixels so that you will see the effect, enough. So now we'll go back to our browser. I'll refresh this. You see that it added 100 pixel. That means the distance between the browser container here and this container itself is 100 pixel. The same with from here to here. So it gave us 100 pixel. If the reason why we are not able to see the margin right that we added is because the container here, I mean, is actually shifted, but there is no content that push for us to know that okay, it is giving a margin here. But just you have to take it that there is a margin here and when you get to use it, you understand. So now, just as we have all these, we can have margin bottom too. Margin bottom, let's say 20 pixel. So what happened, this is how margin bottom is written. You put margin then bottom, then you put the value as I've done like this too. So let's go back to our browser and refresh it. So you see it added 20 pixel to the bottom of this particular container. It also added 20 here. The reason why we did not see it is because there is nothing below the container there. So peradventure, if we want to see that the margin button works for the second property, we can just come outside of it here and write, let's say, paragraph. This is to test this. This is to test that the container above have some button margin. So now let's go back to our browser and refresh it. You see that it gives like a distance between the container and then the next content to it, right? So that is how margin work. So there is a shortcut, there is a shorthand for margin too, that just as we have shorthand for border. So instead of writing all these, you can just come here and write margin. Then the first property is 10 pixel, the second right is 100 pixel, bottom 20 pixel, then we have what again, then 100 pixel for the left. So this is how it's written. You put top, you put right, you put bottom, and then you put left. So let's go back to this place. I'll declare a new class and call it border 2, so that we don't make it we don't make it a radius the way it is. I just want to show you something. So okay, so let's do it like this. So border radius, I just put 2 pixels so that it doesn't appear too boxy. So I'll come back and transition to the browser. Oh, I didn't call it in our HTML file. Sorry, I'll go back here, and instead of calling this just border, I'll call it border 2. Right, so if we go back to our browser and refresh, it gave us a box actually. Fortunately, there is no radius applying to this one. Let me see why. Border radius 2 pixels. Is it too small? So literally, the distance between this container and the one at the top is what we call margin, and this is how below is the way the shorthand for margin is written. So if I disable this and if I comment this out, for example, come back to our browser and refresh, you see that because we removed the margin left, that is why it has shifted back. And remember, the shortcut is saying the first value is top, second value is right, the third value is bottom, and then the final value, which is the fourth value, is the left. So in HTML, we count clockwise like this. We count clockwise from top, right, bottom, left, top, right, bottom, left. So that is how that works. I'll bring it back. Okay, and then inside here, I'll type a paragraph here. Welcome to our house. Let me show you what I've just done. Inside our HTML, I went to this second container which carries the class border 2, and I wrote a paragraph, welcome to our house, here, like this. So I'm going to go back to the browser and display the text for you to see. So welcome to our house. So I'm going to use this text to show you our next property now. So the next property I want us to talk about is padding. Okay. Just as we have the margin property, also we have the padding. And padding is just like, will I say opposite? Okay. Okay, so padding, I mean, just as we have this container here, right? So margin is the distance, is the space outside of the container, between the container and then other containers or other contents, while padding is the space inside of the container. So if I say padding top, that means it will increase the distance between the wall of the container and the content that is inside of it. So let's go back to our code and write padding. So I'll go back to my CSS on border 2 here. I'll just do padding, let's say 30 pixel. What happens? Okay, so now I'll go back to my browser here and refresh. You see, it gives us the a distance between the top and the content to be 30 pixel. It also gives us the distance between this the left contain the left wall of the container and the text 30 pixel. So if you come here and inspect this, you will see exactly what I am talking about. So can you see, open the border 2, you see there is, look at this other side. I can't keep it there like that. I wish I can show you, but you see this greenish color that you see inside the container is where the padding is actually, right? So we have added, and then you see the margin is the one that show yellow, showing you outside of the container. That is the margin that we set for the left, the right, the top and the bottom for it separately. So you remember that the values were not the same, so you see we set 10, 100, 20 and 100. That was why, if you observe very well, let me go back to the browser and show you. If you observe very well, if you observe very well, when I hover it, you see that the right and left is equal. The top is 10 pixel while the bottom is 20 pixel, which is like the double of the top, the space at the top. So while margin is for the distance, outside distance between the container and another container, padding is the distance, is like a distance between the contents and then the wall of the container itself. And just as we have shortcut for margin, you can also write the shortcut for padding as padding, you do top, you do right, you do bottom, then you do left. So that is how to use the shortcut also for padding. So we don't have much time. I think we need to, I already talked about what is it called, So we'll be going next to text formatting. So text formatting, there are many properties in CSS for formatting text, like color, alignment, decoration, transformation, space, and shadow. So we'll be talking about them one after the other. Okay, we'll be talking about them one after the other. So, for example, if I have, let me remove all these that I've commented out so that our code will become cleaner. As they are increasing, you see that if I have been writing them inside our HTML file, you'll be finding it difficult to see the HTML part of the code already. So that is why it's advisable that you create a separate file that handles your styling, so that you can just simply call it in the HTML page. So let's say I have body. The first property I want you to look at for text formatting in CSS is text color. So now if I want to alter the entire colors of every text on our web page, all I just simply need to do is to come to the body, right, and type color blue, for example. So if I come back and refresh our browser, you see that every text on the website will automatically change to blue. So if you want your text to be dark, the type of dark, all you just need to do is specify the color, either within the container you want it to appear as the color, or generally in the body. So it's not just on the body. So let's say, for example, I don't want the whole colors of the whole text of the website to change to blue, but I want all the colors inside border 2 to change to blue. All I just need to do is to come here and put blue here. So like this is what I just did. I'll show you. So I removed it from the body, I brought it back to, let me show you how it was before. So we actually added it to the body part, color blue here, as you can see. So all I did was I removed it from here, brought it back here, and wrote color blue here. So if I come here to the browser and refresh, you see that all the other text will be black, but every text that is inside the border 2 container will automatically change to whatever color we have instructed it to change to, which we did here in our code. So that's how that one works. Okay. So that's how that one works. So we'll go back to alignment. So you see that if you observe very well here, our text is appearing left, not right or anywhere. So the alignment property in CSS will help you to align this text to whatever direction that you want it to align to. So go back and let's go back to the code editor. So how do you do that? So now actually the order of these properties does not matter as far as you do it properly. So if I come here and I do text align and I do center, it will automatically move the text to center. So I will increase this width to something like 400 pixels so that you will see that it actually went to the middle. So now text align center will align every text that we have written on the inside the container to the middle, as you can see here. So even if I come back to my code here and create a new paragraph inside the div here, it will still go to the middle. This is the second paragraph in our border 2 container. So I will refresh, come back to the browser, refresh the browser, and you see that the second paragraph also aligned to the center. So the other alignment that we have we have left, we have right, and then we have justify. So you can use from this range of properties for aligning text in your browser. So now the next property I want to talk about is the text decoration. So text decoration, you can decide that instead of manually, previously I taught you using HTML that if you want to decorate this this paragraph and underline it, all you just need to do is to come here and put you here, come to the end. Okay, come to the end here and close your U. If we go back to the browser and refresh, you see that it underline it here. So but in a situation where you want to handle that with CSS, it's actually very simple. So all you just need to do is to come back to your code. We have removed the underline from here already. So we'll come here, I'll create a new class, a new selector here, a class selector, and call it paragraph, and then I'll say text decoration underline. And you see, so if I come here on this paragraph and I come to our paragraph here and I say class paragraph, so if I come here back to the browser and refresh it, you will see that it will underline it. If we come back to the code editor and remove the text decoration underline here, right, and refresh it on the browser, it will remove the underline because we already commented it out. So that is how the underline property for text formatting in CSS works. So in our next class we will do text transformation, text spacing, shadow, before we go to working with fonts and icons and links and lists with tables and other amazing properties in CSS. So see you in the next class. Thank you.